My brothers and sisters, a just weight and balance are the master's. All the weights in the bag are his work. It is an abomination for kings to commit wickedness, for a throne is established by righteousness. Though the Pharisees' additions to the Torah seemed innocent enough at their inception, over time they became increasingly partial to those who made the additions. This destroyed holy standards, and wickedness reigned. Since the leaders' righteousness had been destroyed, their leadership was void of justice. Significantly, the scripture's final warning is not to add to or subtract from Yahuwah's word, for our own judgments do not have the purity and objectivity of Yahuwah's. This problem never seems to go away. Mashiach excoriated the Pharisees for it. James addressed the called out assembly about it because some were showing partiality to the wealthy in the congregations. Decision-making, judging, discerning, and evaluating fruits often became subjective. We base them on how they may affect our own well-being rather than render them impartially and objectively in the light of Yahuwah's word, purified 7 times. Is it any wonder Yahuwah gives us an average of 70 years to learn to make right judgments? In the religious Jews of his time, Yahusha faced man's proclivity to add to and take from Yahuwah's word. The Jews added thousands of regulations in a sincere effort to make their obedience to Yahuwah as complete as they possibly could. Their traditions were different from ours, but the principle is the same. Their religious life did not depend on listening to Yahuwah, but upon clever arguments and interpretations of the experts, the rabbis. They substituted human ingenuity for Yahuwah's Torah. Yahusha called their ingenuity vain and hypocritical, and their additions resulted in nothing good in terms of the kingdom of Yahuwah. The Pharisees expended a great deal of effort in their religious endeavor to be considered pure by Yahuwah. Yahusha, however, castigates them because all their work and energy were being expended on useless things, things that did nothing to make them more spiritual or permit them to witness for Yahuwah in the right way. Instead, they were religiously expending their energy doing nothing more than the traditions of men and were not the kind of works that Yahuwah was looking for. People keep the traditional holidays in Yahuwah's name, but he is not pleased with them or in them. The Pharisees' outward appearance of piety was a lie because it was not accompanied by total commitment to the true Elohim's way. Their traditions distorted the Torah of Yahuwah, and thus the very image of Yahuwah, because the Torah is a description of Yahuwah's character. Yahuwah's true holy and righteous character is the image of him he wants us to bear and follow. Thus, Mashiach repudiates every addition, subtraction, and distortion men elevate to a specious divine authority. Their use breaks the second commandment because they are not part of the way Yahuwah instructs us to worship him. Many profess faith in Yahuwah, but do not even know him. Their worship is vain, not knowing whom they worship and learning the doctrines of man, not Yahuwah. a belief imparted by parents or other authority figures that Yahuwah exists is not sufficient to establish contact with him. For example, the Pharisees, familiar with the Yahuwah of the Old Testament and believing they were in good standing with him, received Mashiach's rebuke that their faith was in vain. This is true of most people today who think they know the Master and profess faith toward him. Like ancient Israel, we can easily fall back into our former ways. The Israelites rejected the Torah of Yahuwah and relied on the traditions of Gentile nations. Elijah had to take drastic measures to prevent Baal worship from completely eradicating the worship of the true Elohim. Some of Judah's kings spent years tearing down shrines and high places to foreign Elohim. Mashiach warned the Pharisees, for laying aside the commandments of Yahuwah, you hold the traditions of men. For example, Christmas and Easter are traditions of men, but they are lies. What happens if a person trying to establish a religion mixes falsehood with the truth of Yahuwah? Recall Yahuwah's wrath when Aaron made a golden calf at the urging of the Israelites in the wilderness and proclaimed a feast to the Master. Observing Christmas and Easter in the name of Mashiach is no different. Blending the lies of this world with the truth of Yahuwah produces a foul mixture called syncretism. Claimed believers' religions of this world have mixed the traditions of paganism with some of the truth of Yahuwah's word. This is no different from what Israel was doing when Amos wrote back in 760 BC. Since their rejection of the house of David under Jeroboam, the Israelites had practiced a syncretistic religion. Notice the contrast. All the energy they were expending was being done on traditions of men. Yahusha implies, why don't you expend your energy, time, and effort keeping the commands of Yahuwah? Shalom.